Welcome to Dental Nachos TV, where we share toppings to help you do three things: increase success, decrease stress, and most of all, reduce the number of times you feel like crying inside a day. I am so excited for our webinar guest today because all of us dentists, we want to one day put down the handpiece and retire. For some of us are 50s, 60s, 70s, but you need to be financially prepared to do so. And I want my guest to listen to this story. He's going to introduce himself in a second, but I was at a transitions event and a 65-year-old dentist who had just sold their dental practice said one of my colleagues is 74 years old and still practicing, not because they love teeth, but because they did not prepare for retirement. And that story is heard too often. So us dentists who make six figures plus a year, why are we not figuring this out? And I'm thrilled to bring you content today from our awesome sponsor to help us. So would you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what you do to help dentists?
I will. I appreciate the tee up there, and if I can reduce
Yeah.
tears to the dental community, then that's a big win for me. So, but yeah, I'm very excited to be here, and we're even more excited to be partnering and sponsoring with Dental Nachos. It's a great organization and supporting dental practices across the country. So excited to be here. My name is Neil Schiffman. I'm the vice president of partner ecosystem at Ubiquity. What does that mean? Essentially, I work with partners like Dental Nachos. So I have a team that's out developing partnerships to deliver 401k plans to. And I also have a team that manages the success of those partnerships. So, we don't do a lot of direct selling. We like to work through our partnerships and do a lot of educating and cascading a lot of great information around the retirement world.
Awesome, Neil. I'm going to share a few things. I really appreciate you having you. I don't know if it was my childhood. I don't know if it was Mr. Rogers or Reading Rainbow, but it's always about the more you know, and that's what this is about. The more you know about. So if you would like to text retire to 215-543-6454, you will get the best nacho sponsored deal possible through Ubiquity, as well as the ability to get the recording of this webinar. So if you'd like this recording to share with your friends, share with your spouse, share with your colleague, text retire to 215-543-6454. My team will help you do that. We have some awesome opportunities through Ubiquity. I will bring this up at the end too, because you can get my grandmother's right, Neil. I am very special because
That's
they
right.
know me. They get a $0 setup fee. So I'd like you to send me a Chipotle gift card as a thank you for anyone who does that. Not you, Neil. My audience should send me that.
Hey, I'll
So
chip in. No
yeah.
worries.
I am going to let you bring your slides up when you are ready. I do
Very
want to
good.
share, I'm really impressed how many people are here hanging with us live. Some of you will be watching this on a recording, but if you're here live, please put your questions in the Q&A. Neil is here to help you, whether it's the difference between 401ks and IRAs, whether it's maximum distributions, whether it's what you can do this with this money.
Again, really happy to be here. Hopefully this is, sometimes I feel like 401k is very exciting to me, and I hope it is exciting to others as well. But, there's been a lot of changes in the 401k landscape, especially when it comes to smaller businesses or smaller practices when it comes to your world. So I'm going to hit on some of those things and some of the things that you should be looking for today. There's a couple of interesting tailwinds that we call in our industry that are bringing a lot of noise in a good way to having a 401k plan. And also we'll talk about why it's important as far as to have your people attracting talent and retaining talent, why it's so important in today's world. So let me keep moving forward. I already did a quick introduction of myself, but I've been somewhat in this industry. I've been with Ubiquity for a year and a half, but in the industry for about 20 years. I've been at both payroll HCM organizations managing the retirement side, and now here at Ubiquity, working through their partnership side. Ubiquity focuses on small businesses. I think that's important. As much as we are a 401k provider, we are a small business advocate first. It is the backbone of America, and we recognize that. So we wake up every day and making sure not just delivering 401k plans, but are we doing it in the best interest of a small business? And as I move along, you'll see some of the pieces that we've built and how we've really managed the business that are really with the small business in mind, or the small practice, again, 8-year-old in mind. So, what is the biggest challenge when it comes to retirement planning or having a plan? And we put this question out there quite a bit. Great. I see the poll out there, which is awesome. You know, it, this comes up to a few different questions. Is it managing cost? Is it finding the right plan type? Is it really just knowing where to begin? I mean, there's other providers, there's other kinds of plans that you can work with. There's non-401k retirement plans. Like, where do you start? I typically like to say the three C's are what keep people from starting a 401k plan. those three C's in my definition are complexity, cost, and compliance. Usually it's one of those or all three that keep people from starting a plan, right? Can I manage the cost? What about the compliance? Is that something I need to worry about? And the complexity of just picking a plan. I mean, there's different options, and is it confusing? And to me, when those three C's come into play, it doesn't matter if it's 401k or anything else, you kind of push away. So, the answer to this first question, we look at managing retirement costs, finding the right plan type, and knowing where to begin. The answer is all three, and they come up into play. So hopefully, as we move along here in the next couple of minutes, we'll answer some of those questions for you. So I wanted to talk about some of the trends that we feel are reshaping just the industry, but and really relevant to the dentistry world altogether. I mentioned earlier, I kind of call this story that's going on in the retirement world as having two bookends. The first bookend being that there's state mandates right now. Right now, there's about 40 states that are either in mandate or in process of being in mandate to say that small businesses have to offer a 401k plan. To make a long story short, where that's coming from is there's always that concern that Social Security may run out over time. There's always questions whether that's true or not, but those are reasonable trepidations that's going on in the legislation world. So, they to the state level, they decided to mandate that small businesses offer 401k plans. They want more small business starting plans and more employees participating in plans. So, what does that mean? If you're in the states, and we can later on, if it makes sense, I have a map that I can show that shows which states are in mandates, are in process of mandates, and then the different penalties depending on state. But essentially what it means is if you don't offer a plan, you default to the state-run IRA, which is a much more deficient option than having a traditional 401k plan that we offer through Ubiquity. So you default, you have different limits that you can actually contribute. And there's big restrictions on any doing kind of matching for your employees. Essentially, it's just kind of an individual way to retire, to save for retirement. Much less efficient and really isn't used as an employee benefit, more as a default. So more to come there. The other bookend, as I mentioned, there's two bookends. The Secure 2.0 Act, which came out of COVID time, actually is now putting out tax credits to those that have not started plans. And for those who are wondering how many businesses across America have not started plans yet, that number, and it's a moving number, but we always say somewhere between 35% plus still don't offer a 401k plan for them and their employees. So, we want more people saving. So Secure 2.0 tax credit is for those who have not started a plan yet and decide to start a plan. You can get tax credits for up to 3 years for the cost of having that plan, up to $16,500, 100% of startup costs, even though we waive our startup costs for Dental Nachos members, of course. And there's additional credits for things like employee contributions as well. So, we obviously have a lot of education that we provide behind that. But the story here is, again, if you look at the two bookends, the states are starting to say that you have to start to do something when it comes to retirement, and either you go to the state plan, get a small penalty, or move to a traditional private plan. And if you do that, we're going to actually give you back the tax credits over the first 3 years. So interesting time in our industry, as you can imagine. We're talking about this story quite a bit. There continues to be a big rising demand for automation. No surprise, like everyone else, our world used to be heavily paper-based and manually done. And I mean, I remember the day when we actually had to go on site to businesses to get them to enroll. It was very manual type of process. Well, no one has time for that anymore. No one lives in that world anymore. So making sure that everything's very much tight and automated is really important. So having things that are efficient, having full integration with payroll, making sure that whoever you're using integrates with all the payroll providers, certainly the big ones, having digital onboarding, reducing the needs for paper and all the manual efforts. And frankly, it reduces errors, which is really important because once you elect and you put in what you want to save, you don't want any problems with that. So automation has been a very big part of our industry. Technology driven has been a very big part of our industry. Financial wellness is a benefit. We'll talk more about this in a couple of minutes as well. But 401k, the way I like to say it is now become table stakes when it comes to offering to employees. When employees go to work, whether it's at a dental practice or any other business now, they expect to see a 401k plan as part of their benefit offering. So it is an important part of it. And really, when you look at it, people become more engaged, and there are stats that say that retention definitely increases with having financial wellness as a benefit. So really important to be looking at there. Lastly, compliance, I talked about as one of the C's that I mentioned earlier, really keep folks from starting a plan. Um, and those don't change, and they're only getting more muddier by the day. Um, you see a term there called 316 fiduciary. That doesn't mean a lot to you. What that means is that that's the entity that is then handling all of the compliance of a plan. So a 316 is doing all the filings, all the notices, all the changes that are required with having a plan to make sure that it's not you or the practice or anybody else that is stuck with doing those kind of things. So, to kind of tighten this slide up, we've got two bookends. We've got, mandates coming around. Either they're here or they're coming. If you're in California, it's already here as an example. But at the end of the day, we're going to give you tax credits back, or I should say the IRS is, to start those plans. Automation has never been more important. So making things that are digital and efficient and easy to use, not having to deal with paper, super important. Making sure that financial wellness is a benefit and is well known to employees of practices. That we care about your future, your savings, and your retirement. And we like to use the term here. It's important to make sure people retire with dignity, and financial wellness as a benefit is a big part of that. And lastly, compliance is never going to stop in this industry. It's going to get stickier and more complex. So making sure whoever you're working with, you don't need to worry about that because you're running a practice, not a 401k plan, and that's really important. So I mentioned a couple of times financial wellness as a competitive advantage. Again, it is table stakes right now, and it's not just offering the benefit, but what does that mean? One thing that when we think about financial wellness as a benefit for our partners and their clients is what do we offer past the 401k plan itself? So, I already talked about, tax credits and things like that that are really important, and making sure that we are providing the education behind those things. Because it's one thing, and we've all been part of things with tax credits and rebates and all those kind of things. And if they become too difficult to do, we just don't do them. So we make sure that we do the hand holding, and everyone knows exactly what's needed to receive those tax credits. It's really important to us. We provide webinars and a lot of education. This is a ever moving industry, and we don't expect anybody to be an expert in 401k. I'll never go and try to do a root canal for anybody. Nor do I expect any of you to start a 401k plan on your own. So it's really important that we educate. And we do it through webinars, and we do through handbooks, white papers, and things like that. So we're constantly pushing out education. We have built-in calculators that people can go in and predict some future savings and what that looks like for them if they want to make changes to what they're contributing to their plan. All kinds of things and tools to help them see that financial wellness is a true benefit. And lastly, we have a dental guide, and I'm going to share this at the end, a link where you can all download our dental practice guide to smart 401k planning. So we see this industry as one that we've worked in quite a bit, even outside of Dental Nachos. We just have individual dental practices that work with Ubiquity and have for many years. So we have a guide that we can download as well, and I'm going to send you the link to that as well. A lot of valuable excuse me, a lot of valuable information inside that as well. So, again, it's one thing to say financial wellness is a benefit, as it is, but we actually do a lot more information as far as what does it mean, what do you need to know, how do you educate. We do all that hand holding to make sure that we take it to that notch above. So how do you choose the right provider? And this is always interesting to talk about because, I'm sure there's always different visions and thoughts on who the right provider is. But, I'll talk through some things that we think are pretty important to us when you're evaluating 401k providers. Pricing, we talked about compliance. I'm just going to hit pricing right away. There are different types of pricing when it comes to 401k, and it can be difficult to follow if you don't understand it. There's certainly flat pricing, right? Administrative pricing that's pretty simple to understand. What do I get charged per month for administration of the plan? And then usually there's a per employee, per participant charge as well. Some providers also charge a asset-based fee, or it's called an AUM fee. Essentially what that means is they're going to pull a certain percent out of the participant's assets, whether it be every month, every quarter, or annually, depends on the provider. They do that. I would tell you for us, and I'm going to go back to what I mentioned earlier about being a small business advocate first. We've never chosen to have an asset-based fee, and we still don't, and that's 25 years later. The reason is we don't think that's the in best interest of a small business who's starting a plan and getting employees to participate for the first time. Um, just because more assets go into the plan, our service doesn't really change. We're still providing the same service. So philosophically, we never thought having that asset-based fee made sense, and we still don't have it. And we think it's the fair and the right way to do it. Most providers have one, and not knocking it. It's just the way that they run their business. But again, we really prefer to be transparent, have a flat and very easy to follow pricing model. We mentioned in built-in compliance and 316 fiduciary. Um, as an example, Ubiquity is both a record keeper and a TPA, a third-party administrator, which means that we are a bundled service that handles both all the technology of record keeping, as well as all the compliance that comes along with having a plan. So we handle the filings, the notices, and plan operations. Any kind of risk of penalties, we flag those. And obviously, we reduce your liability because we handle those things and take the responsibility. Some providers don't do both, and sometimes they work with a second provider. So, you're kind of left with having to look at a couple of different providers that you're working with. But again, if you're looking at providers, having something bundled like the way Ubiquity does seems to be the best way to do it because you have that one hand to hold. Technology is really important. We mentioned that earlier. We don't think about 401k when it comes to technology, but technology is the backbone of a 401k plan. Your people can go in every day and make changes potentially if they really wanted to. Don't recommend it, but you can go in and make changes on a daily basis to what you contribute. You want to change your funds, that can happen every day. So it's really important to make sure that technology is intuitive, easy to use, and seamless. And lastly, very much integrated by 360 with their payroll provider. Um, Ubiquity, as an example, has a proprietary record keeping system that we built ourselves called Paradigm, built with the small business in mind. Um, we are integrated with over 300 different payroll providers as well. So typically, if you have a payroll provider, we're probably already integrated with it. And so for us, it's like making sure there's enough trepidation with starting a plan. We don't want technology to be part of it. So again, technology driven, really important. We're also very much mobile enabled. So you go on mobile and enabled by mobile, very simple to use. Lastly, again, and I mentioned this earlier, we think it's important that you shouldn't be an expert in 401k, nor will you ever be. We don't expect you to be. So supporting you is really important to us in doing it the right way and understanding the kind of clients that we work with. These are small businesses that are running fast, small practices that you're running fast. You don't have a lot of time in the day, so we need to make sure that we're serving that in the right way. We don't work with bots. We have real people available beyond the setup part. We do a great job at onboarding, but ongoing support is really important. We need to resolve issues quickly and decisively. And again, we talked before, making sure that we have the eye on the small practice. It's really important to us. Lastly, when it comes to, looking at 401k providers and 401k products, products are different. And I, don't have a slide on that, but I want to take a moment to talk about it. We have everything that has a product that's delivered for someone that has one employee. Let's say it's a sole proprietor and a spouse, as an example. We have what's called a single K plan that's built for that type of entity. And then we have different options when it comes to group 401k plans. So there's certainly not a one size fits all here. What we do is we have retirement plan consultants that work with our clients to place them in the right plan, educate them, make sure that we understand what your needs are and the kind of entity that you are, the kind of practice you are, not just where you are today, but where you're going to be going later, to make sure it makes sense that we have you the right plan both today and in the future. So it's important to us. So, everything that we do, as I mentioned earlier, in being a small business advocate and being a small dental practice advocate, is making sure that the way we build our products, the way we price our products, the technology intuitiveness of our product, the built-in compliance, and all the way to how we support and serve our clients is all built with you in mind. And that's really important to us and why we've been around and successful as long as we have. That's the last slide I had, and I wanted to jump back in to see if we had any Q&A.
Yeah, we do. I'm gonna just bring up your QR code. Life's a QR code, Neil. So it's my new book. It's a
I love
QR
it.
code inside of the QR code. So
Love it.
whether it's a restaurant menu or a deal on this, so I'm going to bring this up here for a second so people can scan this or text retire. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Am I on the right one, guys? Nope. Stop share. Hold on one second. While I'm doing this, someone said if a payment is missed towards the contribution, how do you handle the remediation?
Yeah, so that would go into our compliance team and depending on, again, kind of going back to our service kind of being, holding hands, it would go right to our compliance team who would obviously we need to understand timing and how late and things like that. And we would, whatever we can to do to remediate that as quickly as we can, we would do. So, it's hard to say without the exact example, but that's exactly what our compliance team does.
Um, Next thing I wanted to ask you was if someone's like we had a poll question, some people are thinking of adding this to their dental practice, and I know there's so many situations that they can talk with you about one-on-one,
Yeah.
but is there any like just general guidelines of like when you have this many employees, it's going to make sense, or the owner's always going to win if this happens, or think about this. We won't
Yeah.
hold you to it as what people call hard and or fast rules, but just a little deepening context. Like, hey, you're a solo practice owner, you got 6 employees, been in business for 5 years. You're not gonna. I think what practice owners are worried about is the expense to them as the practice owner, right? So, tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, that's a great question that comes up so often. And one thing I'm doing really quick while if this makes sense in the chat, I'm putting the link to download our
Oh,
dental practice
perfect. Lindsay
guide.
helped that. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
of
just put
course.
it? So I just put it in the chat. Um, that's why I was mentioning earlier is we think everyone should be saving for retirement, starting from when you if you're a sole proprietor. Like we have plans specifically called a single K plan. That's for I'm a sole proprietor. I want to have a 401k plan. You can actually add a spouse and or a partner to that plan. So I would say if you're in that scenario, you should start with that right now and start saving because the years are really valuable when we're not saving. Because one
Yeah.
thing I didn't mention, which I think most know already, you get that pre-tax savings when it comes to what you're contributing to your 401k plan, right? So that's pre-tax dollars are going into your plan. So in addition to being really important that you're saving, you're also reducing your tax income by having that plan. So for us, it's if you've got one employee, we've got an excellent plan that you can start with. With groups, there's different options, and I know one of your questions was kind of like, how does that work with sometimes with owners? We've got different options, which is exactly what our retirement plan consultant walks through. There's a term called safe harbor, which will kind of walk you through some employee matching requirements. So the testing comes out clean for an owner that may want to contribute more than their employees. So there's ways to me, if you have one employer or more, there's plans that fit them. But we would talk with our retirement plan consultants to make sure that the options make most sense.
Awesome. I love that. There was a follow-up on that question about the missed contribution. When you remediate that, is there usually a fee to correct it?
We have some fees. I'll have to come back to you. I don't know if that's specifically on that. I will come back to you with that answer
Yeah.
though.
I don't think it was about your specific program. They were just sort of asking in general. Sounds like someone.
They can be every plan has miscellaneous fees, right? Like loan fees, distribution fees, and things like that. So that one's more particular. I can find out for us but it certainly could be.
Um, all right, so we'll ask a couple more questions. I don't want to take too much of your
Sure.
time. I want to remind everyone you can scan that QR code or you can text retired at 215-543-6454. You'll learn how to get the Nacho deal on the Ubiquity setup, which is $0 setup. Connect with Neil Moore
Mhm.
for a conversation. I want to share that I am, it's interesting. Every single person wished they went back in time and put more into the retirement, but I'm
Yes.
going to do the difference because I just met with my financial advisor yesterday and I looked at my 401k. And also I had a Roth 401k, and I was really glad I did the maximum contribution before I had kids. It really did add up.
Yep.
I'll ask, can you still do a portion of it into a Roth 401k?
Yes, you can. So, and for those who don't know, the Roth 401k is it goes in after tax, right? Is the difference between traditional 401k, which is pre-tax, Roth is after tax. So, yes, you can do both. And we walk you through both options when you work with one of our retirement plan consultants.
Because I looked at those balances, and the Roth has less for me, Neil, but I always just be like, yes, the one day I take it out, I'm just going to get all the money, right?
Exactly. You're not paying the taxes later on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is there now it's just turned into my own personal questions while everyone's watching, but it's okay. Probably, is there like if you have a 401k and you have a Roth option, is it still limited by the income of the person contributing? Like you can't contribute if you make above this amount.
No, it's not above so much money. You're still limited to the IRS limits to what you can contribute to a 401k in total.
Total.
Yeah.
But if you went and did a traditional Roth IRA, uh, there are income
Yeah.
limitations, right? Like if you
You are
make
yes.
$300,000 a year, you're kind of out of that.
Correct.
There is the backdoor Roth, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, not the
there's
front
a lot
door.
of
Go
that's
around
what
the
I
back.
say. Yeah, it's funny. That's why I say there's many different options and many ways to kind of slice the pie when you're trying to get to the final results when it comes to retirement planning. And that's why the great thing about us is, we've got I mentioned the retirement plan consultants a couple of times that kind of work with our potential clients and putting them in the right plan. We have one of them that's been here. I mentioned that Ubiquiti's been around for 25 years. He's been here 23 years.
Wow,
Um,
that's a
and another one's been here 15 years. So these are super experienced people that know every trick of the trade to make sure that we're maximizing whatever the goals are.
I won't violate Zoom HIPAA, but one of my closest friends here is watching in who's, above the age of 40, all the way from dental students and practice owners. And it's just universal that people wish they went back in time and put more into their retirement sooner.
Yeah, and don't forget when you get over the age of 52, you have some of the catch-up provisions in there too, so you can start to contribute even more as you get a bit older to
Yeah.
catch up, right? So even if you're behind, you as we get older, we're given those opportunities to catch up a bit too.
I like you stock market people. You're always so positive. Stock market's down. Well, it'll go up one day. It's up. It's going
Buying
great, right?
opportunity, buying
Yeah.
opportunity, right?
Yeah, you have time on your side, no matter what. You have time. So, well, you did a masterful job presenting this. I really appreciate it. I want to share, stick around for a minute with us, Neil, but I want to share it for the end of this webinar for the recording. Take the time to invest in your future self. Your future you will be happy. My 47-year-old self is happy that my 30-year-old self did max out my contributions. I looked at my balances yesterday and I said, I'm really for doing that. So be proud of yourself. Text retire to 215-543-6454. Connect with Neil and his team. Thanks so much for sharing. Oh, there's one more sharing a question. Sure. We have a bonus question here. Sorry, Lindsay, I didn't see it. Oh, sorry if I missed it. Do you offer a cash balance plan?
We do it through a partner of ours. So we don't do it ourselves, but we have someone that we partner with that can offer the cash balance.
Like the specialist, call them the endodontist. It's like when the general dentist refers to the endodontist. I
That's
like
right.
it. Yeah,
Exactly. They're like our
yeah.
endodontist, exactly. Or
Bring in the
our
cash balance
orthodontist.
plan.
But yes, we can help with that as well.